2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How can I be more empathetic to my wife?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. This is going to be a good discussion today, Brandon. This is a question we probably hear 1,000 times over on a yearly basis. So
yes, very common.
Yeah. Before we do that, we got another review. I want to read it. It's a good review. It's titled "Thank You, Michelle," which is referencing a guest from a past episode. And it says, "I wish I found this earlier. I love the boundaries episode. I fell into the advice of other recovery professionals and the unhelpful boundaries you mentioned. It was extremely damaging to my marriage. I'm not sure how we can or will come back from it, or if it just compounded and confused the damage that was already there. I'm working through your episodes, and the advice feels so much more aligned with my truth. Thank you so much for your honesty and advice."
Yeah, we got quite a reaction from that episode. I think we need to do a follow-up episode and speak more to it. So there's I think, Tyler, a lot of wisdom that we have from being in the arena for so long and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I think we need to speak to that even more.
I agree with you. I think things are changing and evolving even in our profession and in the arena that we were working in, and we're trying to evolve the best we can too. And we really should do another episode on that.
Yep. Well, Tyler, I could barely walk up the stairs to get to work today because I went to Tyler's wife and even you, man. Like, you guys can cook. I didn't know you had it in you.
That's all my wife. My Brandon's referencing. We had awesome Thanksgiving. It was up at our place this year, and my wife just kind of went all out on the food there. So it was awesome. It was good to see everyone and have everyone come up.
Gosh, she does something with her yams or sweet potatoes. I don't know what it was, but it was like crack in those things. So, jeez.
Yeah.
Anyways, I got withdrawals going on. So if I start shaking during the show, that's what's happening.
You just have to come visit again. We'll get you some more.
Yeah. But anyways, we got a good guest here today. We got Byran with us. And Byran, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here. If you could just tell us kind of what's going on with you, and then ask away. Ask any questions you have.
Absolutely. So let me I'll start with the question, and then I'll share a little bit of our backstory a little bit, and that's kind of led us to this point and led me to talking with you guys. So my question, I listened to one of your shows from a couple weeks back, is when you had the other couple who was on, and the gentleman was having, he had, when they got married, it was the show to where he was addicted to pornography, and he was very open and upfront with his wife. Obviously he still had some struggles and some setbacks, but has been very honest and transparent with his wife through the process. But in the process, she still has those days to where, she's having a bad day. Maybe her emotions are all over the place, because there's always the feeling of, why am I not good enough, or possibly things to that nature. And for my situation, it's not the same with, dealing with anything that has to do with pornography, really. But the question that arose was, how can I be more empathetic to my wife? How can I be more understanding to my wife when she has one of those days? And also having the mindset of knowing this is a situation that I've created by my actions, and wanting to be as understanding as I can be through this situation. Mm-hmm. A little bit of backstory about us is we've been married almost 16 years. It'll be 16 years in April. We have 4 children. We've been involved in church the whole time. So, we've been actively involved where we go to church, actively involved, I guess, quote unquote, believers, for lack of better words, this whole time. And not to say that I still, in all that, still been an idiot. We when we were first married, my dad had passed away about a year before we had got married. I was the only child. I was 20 at the time when he passed away, and I dealt with a lot of anger issues when he died. Didn't really understand why that had happened, especially because, we believed God so long and so hard for healing. He had died from pancreatic cancer in 2005. And then fast forward to April of 2006, and, I was a terrible, 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 terrible husband to my wife for really terrible for the first few months. I mean, there was physical abuse, verbal and emotional and mental abuse, and I tried to hide it really well. And it came to climax at about 3 months into our marriage, and one of the elders at our church, my wife was working for his wife at the time, and we just got into a big spurt one afternoon, and I didn't let her go back to work. Lo and behold, the next Monday she went back to work. All this stuff came to light, and so our senior pastor got involved, and really just gave me a very, very harsh correction that I needed. We were separated for about 2 months after that, and I can say that since that time, fast forward, all these years, there's no more physical abuse. There's nothing like that. The one thing that I can stand, though, and say, and this is probably for another episode, another time, because we're short on time, is I'm very harsh with my words sometimes. I'm very quick-witted, so I know how to cut somebody down very quickly. And the sad part about that is I've done that to my wife a lot of times. And so more recently, 2 years ago, some information had come to light. I was not honest with my wife about a relationship, and I say relationship in quotations, that some communication, I guess is a better way to say it, that I had with another female who didn't live here in our local area. And when I had went off a separate job that I had at one time, went off for business, I actually had to go to the same city where this individual was at. I, saw her. And it's funny the way that things work that give you the opportunity to be honest with your spouse, because I saw her and it was coincidental that I had seen this individual. I, spent some time with this individual while I was out of town. Nothing in a physical adulterous way. But there was still that unhealthy connection that was there, and I didn't tell my wife about it, and my wife found out about it probably about 2 months later. And so the whole issue, and I'm not trying to downplay the situation, I'm just trying to fast forward to get to where we are now. And at the time, when all this stuff came to light, I was like, well, my wife's like, well, why didn't you just tell me about this? Why weren't you just honest with me? Why didn't you tell me you saw her out there? Why didn't you tell me that she spent time with you and your coworkers while you were there? And I'm like, well, I just didn't think it was a big deal. That whole old age adage came up. Well, it wasn't a big deal. Nothing happened. What's the big deal? And that has been this recurring issue that's been coming up these last few years. Because to my wife's point, and again, I don't ever want to try to downplay her feelings and her thoughts and her perceptions, because those are hers. And it's wrong for me to try to do that. But even to this day, she'll have those days where she'll say flat out, I feel like you cheated on me because you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me that, you didn't tell me that you spent time with this individual. And then this individual talked to her and had actually said that her and I had done like sexual explicit stuff with each other. And I was like, no, we didn't. That never happened. So then it became a he said, she said type deal, right? And I'm trying to cover myself. And then a few days later, that individual comes out and sends my wife a message again and said, yeah, by the way, I was just lying to you. I was just doing that because I know how much my ex-husband disliked, Brian. So I was really just trying to do what I can do. I was trying to do what I could try to do to make him jealous. But even in all that, the damage was done, right? I wasn't honest with my wife. And in reality, my wife doesn't know if something happened, if something didn't happen. I can tell her that nothing happened, but that question is always there. You didn't tell me about just talking to her, so why would I expect you to tell me if something physically happened? And so that leads us here to this point. And like, my wife loves you guys. She listens to you guys probably on the daily. And I'll be honest, like when I see some of the titles, like before this that she used to listen to, I was like, man, this is stupid. Why is she listening? Like, really? Because I'm carrying the guilt around, right? I'm carrying the shame. You said it on your last, on the show that I listened to. I would go into survival mode. Well, what do I do? What do I do to make sure that I'm good enough for her? What do I do to make sure I don't make a mistake? Blah, 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 blah. And in reality, the truth is, she just wanted me and still wants me to be honest and transparent with her about things going on. And the thing that you guys talk about, and I've heard you talk about it on some of your shows, is creating those boundaries, right? Those healthy boundaries so that she can protect herself. Because again, she doesn't know if what I was telling her or what I'm still telling her is the truth or not. My story hasn't changed since then, but she doesn't know that. So all she can do is create these boundaries, right? Whether they be emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. And sometimes those boundaries, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. You're my wife, and so the issue comes up. Well, this is why it's so hard to, trust you again, because you can't even respect these boundaries. You get mad, you get upset when maybe I'm having a bad day or having a bad week, and I don't want to be physical with you. I don't want to be close to you. I don't want to pray with you. I don't want to do all these things that somebody who hasn't lost trust deserves. And she's flat out told me, you don't deserve this because you violated my trust. And my natural
no, go ahead, Brian. I want to hear what you have to say there.
I was just saying my natural reaction is to get frustrated, right? Is to get upset in the moment. So I really I need to do a better job with stepping back and be like, okay, Brian, step outside yourself for a minute. Again, this is something that you caused, you created. How can you, first of all, get upset with your wife, who you say you love so much, who you cherish and all this stuff? How do you have the right to get upset with her when she's doing what she needs to do from her point of view to protect herself, to, and isn't it sad that my wife has to protect herself from me, right? That's the worst part to think about.
Brian, I love your question because you're kind of noticing something that I think is really important, which is this. When your wife comes to you, if you're trying to be intimate, whether it's spiritually intimate or sexually intimate or whatever, and she's like, hey, like, no, I'm not interested. And in that moment is your real opportunity for trust building and really loving her. So if you go to frustration, then you're doing several different things. Either you're triggered into your own shame and you're feeling rejected and you're kind of wallowing in that. Or you're being selfish because it's like, dang it, I wanted to have sex and now I'm not going to get sex. And now I'm like pissed off because I'm not going to get sex. And so it's about self-preservation or what you want in that frustration. Yet, Brian, right in that moment is huge opportunity for you. Huge opportunity. And I think that you're recognizing that. That's why you're asking this question is, okay, when I feel that rejection or when I feel like she pushes away or is not wanting to be close, I want to learn how to hold some space for that pain. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is, because you're absolutely right. Because there are times, if I give you a percentage, like 80% of the time, and again, this is just being honest, 80% of the time when I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? And, you kind of give you put the hand on the thigh or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't want to. 80% of the time, I do start to go into that frustration mode, that rejection mode. Like, and again, the question comes up, man, and sometimes I think this to myself, man, I did this today. I've done this week. Why is that not good enough? And that's very selfish, right? Why is that not good to get to the end result, I guess, of what I'm looking for? And so, and you're absolutely right. There have been times to where, that small 20% of the time where I'm like, all right, it's okay. I just want you to know, I still love you. I hear you. I'm here for you. What do you want to do? You just want to watch TV? And it's funny, right? And you would think I would know this right now because I'm not a dumb guy. I'm pretty smart. And, which I used to tell people, yeah, my wife has been blessed to be married to me for the last yeah, no. But what happens in that moment when I do that is like, she's like, can you just lay next to me and hug me for a while? And so I'll hug, we'll hug for a while watching a show or TV. And usually something ends up happening anyway because she's feeling that closeness that she needs. And you would think I'd realize that by now, but no, I'm just a moron sometimes and like wanting to do my
Brian,
own thing.
There's this thing. Tyler, I'll shut up. I'll let you talk in just a second. Sorry. But there's this thing. It's an important thing, which is your wife needs to know that you love her anyways. So it's like, hey, if you initiate sex and she rejects you, for you to be able to hold space and understand where she's at, for you to cuddle with her and hold her, and do that because you actually want to do that, not just because, well, maybe, this will lead to something, but for you to actually want to do that. And a woman knows, she knows where your heart's at. If it's just about, you eventually getting off and that's the goal, she'll feel that in your heart, and that'll be pressure to her. She'll feel used. She'll feel, and so this thing, we talk about it all the time. These guys say, man, I want my wife to have sex with me more. And so what they do is they go pressure their wife to have sex with them more, which makes their wife want to have sex with them less. Right. So.
Yeah, we had this discussion several months ago in one of my groups. It was interesting. I had a guy come in. He was really, really frustrated because he decided to step into this whole humble warrior mode. I'm going to go show my wife that I love her. And he shows up in group a week later and he's like, you guys, I'm going crazy. He's like, I've done the dishes 34 times and we haven't had sex yet. And one of my mentors in the group turned to him and said, there's a problem with this. And he said, I know there's a big problem with it. And he said, no, the problem is that you're counting. He's like, why are you doing what you do? Are you doing the dishes to help your wife because you love her and because you want to be an equal partner and because you're trying to show her that you're there for her? Or are you doing them on that daily quest so that it ends with exactly what you want it to end with? And Brandon, you're spot on. It's not only damaging to our wives because they feel it, it's damaging to us as well. Every day we kind of have to make the choices to the manner of man you want to be. Do I want to be the guy who can show up and hold that space and show empathy and kindness and love for my wife because that's who I want to be, because that's the target? Or is it always going to go back and default into because that's what I want? And that's a hard thing because there are some other things wrapped up into this, Brian, and I think you're getting at it a little bit. Is I want to know what it is inside of you that fires off the minute you get rejected. What's the storyline in your head that happens? Let's say when you approach your wife for sex, and then she says, "No, I'm not there today," or "I'm not in the right mood," or whatever. I just want you to hold me. Why is that such a hair trigger response, and what is the response? What's the story?
It's hard to describe that feeling that I feel when that happens sometimes. Because, like I said, it's not all the time, right?
Just 80%.
It's just sometimes that happens. Yeah, right. Time it happens. But it's a strange feeling, and you're right. When I approach and she says no, I think for me it's well, why? Oh, because I don't want to. Well, did I do something? No, I just don't really feel like it. Well, why? You know what I mean? To me, right?
But Brian, do you believe her?
That comes into my mind.
She's like, I don't want to. Do you ever believe her?
I mean, it's hard for me to believe her because, no, I don't. I guess in the past, I haven't really believed it. No. And now more recently, it's a feeling because she flat out told me, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, to be honest with you, when she had told me, I don't want to because I'm not really feeling safe with you. And when I heard that, right, in my mind thinking, I want to be the kind, the sensitive guy, and naturally I'm just not like that. So it's been a very big change for me to try to adapt and adjust my thinking to that. When she says, I'm not feeling very safe from you, and man, I know she's going to go back and listen to this podcast later, but I think to myself, that sounds so that sounds to my thinking, it sounds so stupid. What do you mean you don't feel safe with me? Because I'm thinking material stuff, right? Well, I went to work today. We have all this stuff, we have everything we need. How many times I tell you I love you today and just call to check on you? It goes into that again. I think it goes back into a measuring stick, right? Like, I did all these things. Why is that not good enough? And so I guess that's the thought or the feeling right there. And yeah, sometimes I'll get frustrated and I don't say anything and I just kind of let it be. But sometimes I get frustrated and then I start to create an issue. And then she makes this comment to me. I should have just done it so I could have avoided this conversation. And
you're not going to like
at that point.
Me saying this if your wife listens to this, but I really think you guys could benefit from a sex fast for a while. And the reason is it's interesting when couples do it the right way. A lot of times they really struggle to go 90 days or however long they try to go because the woman is initiating sex because all the pressure's gone. And there's a fracture to the foundation of your relationship, Brian. That's what I'm picking up on. And so when she's saying things about safety, there probably is some safety there. But there's this fracture, and it's interesting. I want to come back to this whole do the dishes thing. I've had days where not only do I do the dishes, like I am empathetic with my wife. We're very connected. She wants to be around me, and I'm not taking things personally. I'm holding space for her. She wants to be close to me, and she does not want to have sex. And why? Why would that be? Brian, Tyler, why would that be?
Because
I'm a good-looking guy. Like she doesn't want to have sex with me all the time. What the heck?
Yeah. You at least have the flowing locks. You were the best-looking Patrick brother for sure, Brandon. But no, yeah, like so you're asking the question, number one, because she's her own individual, and so sometimes she's going to be in a certain frame of mind, and other times she's not. What you're pointing out, Brandon, is that things could be going really well in your relationship, and she could still say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And, yes. Go ahead.
And if she says no, she's also feeling safe enough to say no, because she knows that even though you'll likely be disappointed, and that's okay if you are, you're not going to take it out on her by giving her the cold shoulder or getting defensive or asking 1,000 questions why, or then her saying, well, it's not really about you. And then you're like, yeah, but it really is. Like, tell me what's wrong. Like,
yes,
you basically can say, oh, we're two different individuals. Things are good in our relationship. That's okay. It's going to be hard on me.
It might be a certain time of month that there's just no desire. Like, it's just not there. It's just not there. And that's okay. But Tyler and Brian, I want you to hear this too. I believe that there's this dialectic between, I could want sex every day. I could say, hey, I want to have sex. I want to have sex. Like, I have this sex drive. So being honest with my sex drive and being absolutely okay with no being the answer. Like, that is absolutely okay. So even though I desire sex and you say no, my masculinity and my fortitude, my strength, whatever we want to call it, that's where I can sit in the discomfort of that and be okay. So it's not about her rejecting me. It's not about my self-worth. I can deal with a boner that I have that's uncomfortable and not go act out or whatever. Like, I can be okay. And if my wife feels that from me, that I'm okay, then she has the safety to say no. She has the safety to be her, where she's at physically, where she's at emotionally. It might have something to do with me. It might not have something to do with me. But I, unto myself, am okay with that. I can hold that. That's where the safety exists.
Right, Brandon. But that now you're hitting the point that I think comes into where Brian's question really was, is that what you're saying, Brandon, is that in order for you to do that, you have to have a relationship with yourself first, where you trust yourself. Where you trust yourself and you trust God, and you can say, okay, I know that I can handle having some sexual feelings that aren't going to be physically expressed and still be a nice guy. I know that I'm not going to go pursue something else and step outside of my marriage because it's not available at every whim. And I can tolerate some of that discomfort. And in order to do that, you have to trust yourself.
Right. Well, yeah. I have to trust myself, and I have to be okay with myself. If I'm consuming my wife, Brian, when we talk about consuming your wife, you can consume her physically. It's like, hey, I need your body to get off. Like, so like, come on. Like I did the dishes. Like, so I need your body. Ugh. Yeah. Also, we consume our wives emotionally and like for our self-worth. It's like, what do you mean you don't want me? What? And so coming back to what you were saying, Tyler, when I'm like, hey, I'm good. Like I am okay. So now all I'm left with is discomfort of not having sex. I can deal with that because I'm good with the shame and all this other stuff. So I'm okay. That is so attractive, right? Is this making sense, Brian?
I also want to come back to what you said, Brandon, a little bit earlier, because I think this is a big thing that can help you, Brian, is that Brandon said something about there being a fracture in your relationship. And when the fracture happened, what it sounds like is a couple of years ago, the big fracture, even though there was other stuff before that, which, by the way, a really quick side detour. It's interesting, Brian, because there's like a little paradox that was going on earlier for me in my head when you were talking, and that here you are showing up to the world, telling your story, and you admitted things like, I've been physically and verbally abusive to my wife, and I had a relationship with this other woman. But there's a paradox, because then you also kind of like steered away from it being an affair, because didn't actually end up being physical, even though it sounds like on all counts it was like an emotional affair. There was this fracture that happened. And at that time you got on the horse and finally it came out, but it sounds like it came out because you got caught. And so I wonder if part of that fracture is that now you're working your butt off, like going like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm trying to be more kind. I'm trying to be less cutting with my words. I'm trying to be more honest. I hope you are being and doing all of those things, because that's part of what's going to help reestablish the trust. And in the day-to-day, when you're the one in the grind trying to make it better, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that even though you did everything right today, that crack in the foundation hasn't quite fully been filled yet. And so when she comes to you and says, I can't trust you, and you're like, man, it's been like 3 weeks of me doing this, and this, or it's been like 6 months of me doing this. It's like, okay, yes, that's true. And you need some place, probably a group of men, to help reinforce that and say, stay the course. You're doing the right things. Keep it up. But there also needs to be the bigger picture of, oh, this is a foundational thing right now. This isn't a today thing. You know, when she says, no, you're not doing anything wrong. Okay, you didn't do anything wrong today. This is a deeper feeling that she's having that ties back to some of that bigger stuff. And if you have that perspective, it's going to allow you to slow down that approach of needing her to tell you you're okay and that everything's all right. So it's just kind of broadening that perspective sometimes that is hard to do when you're in that day to day. What are you thinking, Brian? What are you feeling?
No, that makes that makes perfect sense. And it's we have our oldest, we have a 13-year-old son, right? And the conversations we've been having with him lately is taking responsibility for his stuff, whether it be physical stuff or, if he does something that's wrong and he knows it, just take responsibility for it, because the end result is a lot smoother than if we find out you're being dishonest about it, and then it's going to be much worse after that. And I think, regarding this situation and like I've told her, oh yeah, I take responsibility for this, but as I sit here and I listen to you guys, have I genuinely taken responsibility to the point where she knows that I'm taking responsibility for it? Not just saying it, not just as a caveat, right? But it's something that she can say, yeah, he did make a mistake. He was an idiot. And somehow I'm still here. For some reason, I'm still here, and I should consider myself blessed and lucky enough and grateful that she's still willing to, carry my last name and wear my wedding ring with her. You know what I mean? To the point where, like, what I'm thinking back to that is, again, have I truly taken responsibility for the pain and the hurt that I've caused her, to the point where I'm willing to take some pain and hurt, in quotations, because of how I've betrayed her, and how I've genuinely hurt her to the core. And if you guys ever had the chance, to talk to her, she's like one of the most kindest and sweetest women on the planet. And she's very kind-hearted, and she's, obviously you guys can't say this, but she's super cute to begin with too, so like these things, like I look at that and I'm like, here I am complaining about something that, in essence, in the whole grand scheme of, not to get all Christianese on you guys, but, in the whole grand scheme of eternity, something that's so minute right now, because my goal should just be doing the things I need to do to correct that fracture in our relationship, so that way all the other things can just naturally just start to blossom and come out again. Because if your house sits on a fractured foundation,
but Brian, here's the thing:
things at a higher level start to really mess up.
I love what you're saying, because you're acknowledging that the fracture's there, and to fix that fracture, we need to look at how were you? I know this was years ago, but how were you, and why were you an abusive husband? Why did you start a relationship outside of your marriage? Where did these things come from? Because you need to clean up your side of the fence for you, and really, really know who you are as a man for you, independent of her, so that then you can show up as the man that fixes that fracture, rather than not have those things totally cleaned up, but try to show up as a good enough man who's penitent and humble and all these things, but still have that corrosion underneath. But you're like, well, gosh, can't she see that I'm being good now? And it's this thing where you almost get your heart to a place where you let her go as the motivation. And the motivation really is getting clear with God and clear with yourself first and foremost, so you can truly stand on your own 2 feet. And so then all of a sudden you do that work and you become way less vulnerable to rejection and to frustration from her. Because it's like, hey, I really am solid. I know. And I'm not saying, Brian, that you're not. It seems like you've done a lot of your work. Seems like you've stepped into some hard stuff, but there's some work to do still. And she's a good reflector to you of that, but don't do it for her.
Right. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. I've where we go to church here in town, there's a few clinical therapists that are on staff, and I went to talk to them, but that was a little harder to talk to them, to be honest, because they know me, right? They know me from a level, they know me from an everything level, so I had to step away from getting help at our church and go to a Christian counselor outside of our church who I feel like I could be more honest with. And it was a man. And I felt like, and these two individuals at our church were women, and not that they're not amazing, but I felt like I could be more. There's some things you can tell another guy, right, that you just feel super uncomfortable talking to another woman about. And so, I went there, and he helped to identify, which he called emotional cookies. Am I reaching out and grabbing these emotional cookies from women who are not my wife? Someone says, "Oh, you look so nice today." And you grab onto that, and you almost try to latch onto that, or, whatever it may be. And then you start to play this comparative game. Well, my wife hasn't told me in how long that I look nice, or I smell good, or my beard looks nice, or anything. You know what I mean? But this certain person says it to me on the weekly. So he warned very closely about those emotional cookies and reaching out for those and grabbing for those where you shouldn't be grabbing for those. So, sadly, he moved out of New Mexico. So, it's been hard trying to find somebody to fill that role again. But yeah, because I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think any good self-respecting husband who really loves his wife,
of course not,
wants to create
Brian,
this.
Can I,
Brian,
I want to have this.
I'm kind of jumping ahead because we're going to run out of time here, but when you're 20 years old, you're still a kid. And for dad to go away then is really traumatic. And, we all want dad's love. We want that connection. And I was talking to a guy last week, and he said, he had a bunch of father wounds. He got no validation from his dad. And he's like, I turned to women to feel okay. I turned to women to feel all right about myself. And I don't know what your relationship was like with your dad growing up, but just that wound of his death at such a young age for you, I would guess, and I would have normally done a little more digging here, but I would guess that has something to do with your perception of self, and your need for validation from somebody else, and turning to your wife for it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to answer you real quickly, so the relationship with my dad was fantastic. Like we had a great relationship. I could talk to him about anything and everything.
Yeah.
The relationship with
maybe
my
there's
mom
some trauma there.
Was not, and is still
wanting
not
some
that way
validation
today.
and love and connection from a woman is there in your life, right? And so getting rejected by your wife, you're probably having a lot of triggers because of your relationship with your mom, right?
Right.
And I always come back to this, but to do your own trauma work, like whether it's EMDR or what, like real trauma work in therapy about your relationships with your parents is going to help your marriage, because you'll realize I'm different than those relationships with my parents. I don't need to show up as a little child in my relationship with my wife. I'm going to show up as a man now. Right. So, I don't know where Tyler left to, but
Brandon, can you hear me?
He bailed on us, Brian, but that's okay. We need to wrap this up anyways. And I do you have any last question for me or comment? Do you have any last questions for me or any comments?
Say that one more time. It broke up just a little bit. I mean, honestly, not really. I think, for me is really recognizing, like you said, that fracture that's there, and being able to pinpoint how to repair that without focusing on my wife, right? Focusing in
Brian, if I were your wife, I'd be frustrated, and this is why.
And sometimes that's what I focus on.
I feel like I get a pretty good read on people, and I can tell that you got a good soul, that you're a good man with a good heart who wants to create love and wants to be a good father and husband. And dang it, she probably sees that in you too. But she's not getting all of you as a man. There's still some shame in there. There's still something holding you fully back. And so it's frustrating because it's like, man, Brian, like, I know who you are. I see you, and I just want all of you. And I don't want the pouter. I don't want the little child who pouts because he doesn't get sex, or like, I want you. I want a full man. And so I just want to applaud you for coming on, having the courage to come on, be so vulnerable. And really, I want to say thanks to your wife too, because you were vulnerable and talked about your relationship. And I would suggest you get in, do some of your own trauma work, stay consistent. Have you ever read Wild at Heart? Get that book today. It'll change your life. It's excellent. It's by John Eldridge.
I have not.
Read Wild at Heart. Get into therapy, and keep doing a lot of the things that you're doing, Brian, but just make a few shifts to deal with some of the biggest fears that you have. All right, you guys, if you like this episode, if it resonated with you, then please don't be shy to share it.
I'll do that.
And we would love your reviews over at iTunes. Have a great day. We'll see you later.
Can you guys hear me yet? Hello, hello, hello?
Brian, I think we're good. I don't know what happened to Tyler.